Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. Behind me is my 1990s Scott Montana. It's a new resto mod build that I've put together. I actually have been riding it for like a year now. I'm just getting around to making the video. If you've watched the channel for a while, you'll remember the Diamondback outlook that I had built up. And you'll notice a lot of the same parts are on this bike. That's because that Diamondback, it only had a 125 rear end, so I had it set up single speed and it was great for that. But since we moved to Arizona and my riding is a lot more varied than it was in Idaho, at least for this build, I wanted to put gears on it. So a relative of ours was getting rid of a bunch of bikes, and to be honest, most of them were junk, just basic Walmart bikes and whatnot. But they were going to throw them away, and they were curious if I was interested in any of them. And of course I noticed the Scott. And then of course I noticed, 135 rear end, standard spacing. It's got a derailleur hanger on it. Actually, I could put gears on that bike. So that's kind of what got this build started, and it's been really fun. This frame was designed by Scott Bikes in Sun Valley, Idaho. We have Tongay MTB tubing, which isn't as light as, say, Tongay Prestige, which is what a 90s stump jumper would be made from, but it does tend to have a little bit different ride characteristics, and I think there is some benefits to it. And it can be argued that it's more durable, very similar to what you'd find on a Surly, although of course the frame design is completely different. I've ridden quite a few frames with this Tongay MTB, and I just think it rides excellent, and it's a very good value. This bike was originally sold from Bobo Sheehan Ski Company Incorporated out of Reno, Nevada. So I don't think they sell bikes anymore. I believe they still are in the ski business though. So that's kind of an interesting tidbit. So let's jump straight into the drivetrain. We're running a Microshift Advent X drivetrain almost. Tried to run a full Advent X and ended up with a bad derailleur. It's one of the only times that's ever happened to me with that particular drivetrain. So we still have the shifter here. It's a very nice shifter. It's got a built-in bearing. And then it gets a little bit more interesting as we get towards the derailleur. This is a 1x10 drivetrain. And the really interesting thing about it is we're running an Advent X shifter, and we're running a 12-speed SRAM GX Eagle rear derailleur. I had this rear derailleur sitting around, and when I was having issues with the Advent X shifting, I decided to swap the derailleurs. And not only does it shift perfect, it shifted so much better than I expected that I've decided it's just going to stay on here. I'm really pleased with the shifting performance. The cable pull ratio obviously matches, and so it's been a pretty nice little drivetrain hack, I would say. But we've got a Shimano Dior 10-speed cassette. I believe it's 11 to 36. Don't really need more than that on this bike. This crankset originally was on my Surly Krampus. Then later it was on the Diamondback, and now it's here, the Raceface Affect R crankset. We've upgraded and gone with a little bit bigger chainring. But we've gone with steel just to save some money. Pedals are aluminum pedals from E13. They've got a really nice concave design. They feel fairly durable. The bearings spin very smooth. This is a very smooth pedaling bike. In fact, I would say this is one of the smoothest pedaling bikes that you'll ever ride. If you ever are around, or you know me personally, if you have a chance to get on this bike, you really should. We have a nice Wheels Manufacturing bottom bracket, and with the 1x10 and everything that goes with it, with this Tongay MTB tubing, I mean, this thing, it just rides like butter. It's not quite as fast as the Krampus, and it doesn't fit me quite as well as the Krampus, but in terms of ride quality, it's right up there with any modern bike. The one thing that needs to change on this bike is the tires. So these are the Continental Traffic tires that I put on the Diamondback. They're only like 2 or 3 years old, and they started dry cracking within like a year. I've been riding them like this for a while, but as you can see, I mean, these tires are done. The tread's in great shape. I think it's a great tread design, but there's definitely a quality issue on this tire. Would not recommend it. So I'm going to be switching tires, but I wanted to show it to you guys before I switched them, just to kind of give you a PSA. Would not recommend the Continental Traffic, unless of course they make some changes to it that increases the quality, because I think it's a great tread design. We have Weinmann Zach 19 rims. I actually have them on both ends. The rear is black, the front is silver. I wish I could have found a silver one for the rear, but the front wheel came off the Diamondback, and then the rear wheel had to be replaced new, of course, to accommodate that 135 rear end. For brakes, we have my favorite levers, the Avid FR5s in the silver color. They're fairly affordable. They have great performance, and they've proved to be reliable on a number of builds. Switched to the Tektro V brakes. These were fairly affordable as well. You can go more expensive on V brakes, but gets you away from the canties. Canties can be very good, but you've got to track down the right canties, and then adjustment is a pain. Whereas a cheap pair of V brakes works perfectly fine. And so as much as I love vintage stuff, I switch to V-brakes every time. I'm not that much of a retro grouch. One of the other more expensive changes was putting on this Surly open bar. I'd bought it for something else. I can't remember exactly why. And then I'd never used it. And when I switched to this bike, I wanted a little bit more versatility. And so rather than use the super high-rise bar that was on the Diamondback, I switched to the Surly open bar. And it's still a fairly comfortable, relaxed riding position, but it's low enough that when I use this bike to do training rides, or if I want to do some more aggressive stuff on it, I can get into that position. It's a little bit more neutral than the super high-rise kind of ape hanger thing I had before. So really pleased with it, but I do think that the Surly open bar is more expensive than it should be. Just my 2 cents. Finally, we have the WTB Coda saddle, and saddles are a super personal thing, but I think for a saddle that is sporty, the Coda is one of the most comfortable options out there. So I ended up putting one of these on there, and I've been really pleased with it. But like I said, saddles are super personal. And then I went with an Origin 8 quill stem with a little bit of a rise there. It's worked well for me. I don't think quill stems need to be super fancy. Bars don't slip, the quill stem doesn't slip, and I've been happy with it. The only things that are stock on this bike are the headset, and that's mostly because if a headset works, I don't like having to track down and press in a new one. There's so many different sizes out there that it takes a lot of measuring, and I just don't have time for that. And then the seat post clamp and the seat post, I can't remember exactly what diameter the seat post is, but it's kind of a unique size. So eventually I will track down a new one that looks a little bit nicer, but for right now, I just grease this one up, and it's been working fine. You'll notice I do run full-length cable housing. I know there's a lot of retro grouches out there that really do not like the aesthetic of full-length cable housing, but when you only have 2 brakes and 1 rear derailleur, it's really not a big issue. Shifting performance hasn't been affected at all. It keeps things clean, but the big thing that I like is if I'm strapping frame bags to this bike or anything else like that, I don't have exposed cables getting in the way. So I run full length. It doesn't look as good, but you know what? It works for me. All right, guys, that's all I have for you on the 1990 Scott Montana. Love these 90s mountain bike builds. I'm gonna have to make a video on why these are so great. They ride amazing, and I've really enjoyed it. And the great thing is they're really affordable. You can spend a lot of money if you're hunting for a really unique or collectible frame, but if you're willing to get one with a bad paint job, good bones, not a lot of clout in the industry, and you're willing to pull parts off of it, then you can turn these frames into whatever you want, and you can do it on a budget as well. And so if you guys have any questions, leave them in the comments down below. I'll try to answer them, and look forward to next week's video because we do have another build coming soon.